Hello again, I'm Matthew from thewetpen.com, and I'm going to try to keep this quick today because this video is mostly to introduce this new nib, the CanWrite No.9. That's right, it's larger than a Bach No.8, and it's quite a bit larger than the Jinhao X159 nib. At the moment, this nib is only available in the CanWrite Mammoth fountain pen, which is awesome and really frustrating at the same time. So I'll give you the good and the bad, but I'll start with the good. First, the nib. Let me show you how big this thing is. Here it is next to a typical Bach No.6 nib, and here it is next to the nib in a Jinhao X159. Some people refer to this Jinhao nib as a No.8. But if you measure the feed, it's about 7.3 millimeters, and the base of the nib is 7.5 millimeters wide, so it's a little smaller than a standard No.8 nib. The naming convention of these nibs generally comes from the size of the feed. A No.6 nib has a feed with a 6 millimeter diameter generally. The CanWrite No.9 has a handmade ebonite feed that is 9 millimeters in diameter. Overall, the nib is 45 millimeters long with about 28 millimeters exposed. At the base, the nib is 10 millimeters wide and it's 12.5 millimeters at the shoulder. This nib does not appear to be in any sort of a screw-in nib unit, which means that it won't be easy for other manufacturers to start using this nib right away. And I've heard from one pen company that CanWrite intends to keep the nib to themselves, at least for now, but demand might change that. Before I move on to the details about the pen, it's a fair question to ask, why would anybody want a bigger nib? Does it make writing feel better in some way? Smoother or springier or softer or something? Certainly, for the past several months, there's been so much hype around the Jinhao X159 that it would be easy to assume that there is. Well, if there is an advantage to a larger nib, I don't know what it is, other than aesthetics. If there's another reason, please let me know down in the comments, but for me, the advantage of a large nib is that they look and feel more proportionate when you're using a large fountain pen like this Mammoth. When I'm writing with an X159 or this CanWrite, it doesn't really feel any different than a No.6 nib to me. This CanWrite nib, incidentally, is a good writer. It's a broad nib, and it's nice and smooth with no problems with skipping or flow, and there's no baby's bottom on this one either. Okay, now about this pen as a whole. The CanWrite Mammoth is available in polished black ebonite or in streaky black and red ebonite. If you're new to fountain pens, ebonite is a type of hard rubber that's nice and durable, and obviously I got the red and black, and I really like the look of this ebonite. As you can guess from the name, it's a large pen, about 7 inches long. For comparison, here it is next to a Jinhao X159, and a TWSBI Eco, and here's a Lamy All-Star. The only pen that I own that's anything near this in size is my Runga Giant 9B, and they're very similar. The cap unscrews in about 3.5 turns, which is more than I'd prefer, but it's tolerable. And the section unscrews to reveal a large twist-type ink reservoir. I'm hesitant to call it a converter because the pen doesn't accept any type of standard cartridges. But one of the really cool things about this pen is that it does come with its own extra cartridge. It's here in the box with a screw-on cap and a little rubber gasket seal. You can load some ink into this thing with a syringe or eyedropper and carry it around with you rather than carrying a bottle, which is pretty handy. When you unscrew the cap, you can screw it onto the opposite end of the cartridge so it doesn't get lost. Either one of these ink reservoirs would screw onto the threaded nipple on the grip section. The CanWrite Emperor uses the same system, I believe. The cap of this pen does post, and it actually posts pretty well. It's on there solidly, although you'd have to be a madman to actually write this way. Without the cap, the pen is actually a great size in my hand. I'm 6 feet tall with long fingers, so your mileage may vary. The grip section of this pen has to accommodate a 9mm feed, so of course it's fairly large, about 15 millimeters. It tapers downward towards the nib, and there's a substantial lip at the end of it. It's big enough that it will take some getting used to, but I like the feel of it overall. So there's a lot of good in this pen, but now we come to the bad, and that all surrounds the clip as far as I'm concerned. This clip is really quite bad. It's thin, it's flimsy, and it's too small for a pen this size at this price. I know that CanWrite can make a good sturdy clip because my older, less expensive pens from CanWrite actually have good clips. They're nothing special maybe, but look how sturdy and well polished this clip is on this CanWrite Heritage compared to the Mammoth. This Osprey Madison, which is also an Indian pen, and this Moonman M800 both cost half as much as this Mammoth and have really nice roller clips, so it's hard to believe that this is an issue of cost. CanWrite used a standard-sized clip on this pen. Here's an FPR Jaipur version 2, and you can see that the clips are interchangeable, though the Mammoth's clip is a little bit shorter. Now, I know it's a matter of personal taste. Maybe some of you would like a short clip on a pen this size. I know it was a more popular style on some vintage pens, but I think it would look a lot better with a larger, longer clip. But more importantly, the shape of this cap seems to have been dictated by the size of the clip, not the other way around. So instead of getting a typical cigar-shaped pen cap, or a torpedo shape, or a conical end, we get this odd, long taper up to a point where this clip will fit on the pen, and that looks strange and contrived to me. Maybe I'm way off base here though. Maybe CanWrite just wanted to break from tradition and not make a cigar-shaped pen, and they like this shape. I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Anyway, I have some mixed feelings about this pen, and I hope that someday soon, CanWrite makes this nib available to pen makers around the world so that we can get a little bit more variety. But I think it's great that the fountain pen community in general has another new large nib being made by a company that has the capacity to produce them in volume for a fair price. Well, this isn't the video that I was planning on making this week, but I hope that you've found it interesting. I'll be back next week, I hope, with a new video about Japanese inks, and another pen video that highlights an interesting nib, so if you'd like to see those videos and you're not already subscribed, this is a good time to do it. And of course, I can always use an extra like on my videos if you find this sort of thing interesting. And that's it. Take care out there, everyone, and I'll see you next time.